Just poking bears.
It would. But speaking of this series, it's been a great series, even though last night was a blowout. It's been a great series. I've enjoyed the basketball. Like, this is one of those series, and these are the teams that if Naismith was looking at them right now, he would think we were watching aliens with the way that they move the ball and how fast they are and all that. So why is it that nobody's watching?
Is it nobody's watching, or we are having a lot of conversations about nobody's watching?
Both.
Because I'm not a big ratings guy, mainly because any app that you're using to watch the game, you're probably sharing with somebody.
Uh-huh.
Like your YouTube TV on your TV is your boy that came over during football season. He's like, "Oh man, don't buy it. I get it free with my job cell phone plan. Here's YouTube TV. It's on your TV." Uh, like I had a 10-day free trial to watch the conference finals on YouTube TV, canceled because it's like
Mm-hmm.
$82 a month. And then if you're using the laptop, you can use some of these other sites. We're not promoting it because they're not giving us any money. So it's like we're not promoting it. But you can watch it on the laptop. You can watch it at a bar. You can watch it at a friend's house. I think more people are watching it. I just feel as if the pundits who are talking about sports on television, they talk about what they like and it comes off as what they know. Like I can talk about the Falcons pretty not during the season pretty in depth because I watch all the Falcons games. I watch the other games on TV, but I might not watch Bears versus Vikings if it's not on
Mm-hmm.
TV. So if we had to break down, on Tuesday what happened over the weekend, I'm gonna give you everything I saw in the Atlanta game, the 3rd and 8 in the third quarter when Kyle Pitts was open, and he could like I have all that broken down to make it seem like, oh, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to football. Like, no, I know what I'm talking about when I come to the Falcons because that's what I watch. I think a lot of these pundits don't watch these other teams, the Indianas, OKCs, Detroits. And so when it comes to the finals, they're surprised at how well Shepard can defend on the perimeter. They're surprised at Matherin's ability to score 20 points in 12 minutes because they haven't watched them at all year. So everything
Uh-huh.
is like brand new. And we've had this conversation with people in our group saying like, "Oh, it's not enough popular names." It's like it's a popular sport brand. We all like basketball shoes, but well, there were so many shows where they had segments, and I saw clips of people talking about LeBron's statements over the last couple of weeks. He said like a couple of things. Like I saw one last week, and he's talking about the fouls. That was all over like my social media page. And then the ring culture conversation that he broached with Steve Nash. That was, and it was like everyone was like so animated about this conversation. I'm like, yo, he's having a conversation with the fellow former NBA player drinking wine, and you guys have more passion about that than the great 6 basketball games we saw. Even this blowout was great because you had Halliburton, the guy who's rumors he was going to be ruled out. You had a guy like TJ McConnell, a journeyman that's
And,
really
and,
doing
and
his
don't
thing.
forget,
The MVP
Halliburton
with
was
his back
voted the
against
most
the wall.
overrated player.
Halliburton most overrated. I think it's because I think he's getting the Drake treatment from the league. I think they just view him as like a corny light skinned guy. But I really
Well, I
think
think
he's just like a happy. I think he's just a happy guy, and I think these two teams are really on. I think they really like being around each other, and there's no animosity, there's no beef with no one's trying to get Carlisle fired.
it's just
Where we
yeah.
talked about like the Lakers every week, it was like, is JJ gonna get fired? How long is this gonna last? Is LeBron interviewing his new coach? It's like, but there's no animosity with these teams. So we
Well, I
got to
think
find
that
something to be angry about, and we're just angry that they're two towns combined for like 4 million people.
well, to your Halliburton point, I think it goes back to last year and some of the things that we talked about, where leading up to the NBA Cup and through the NBA Cup, because they made it to the finals, I believe, or right. Yeah, I think they made it to the finals last year.
I think they played the Lakers, right?
Yeah. And so he put his name on the map during that tournament, but then he got hurt. And we were talking about how he rushed back because his Supermax, was on the
He
table.
did get that 65 games under his belt.
So then he came back hurt, playing like trash because he wasn't 100%. And then a lot of people, especially like Trae Young fans, Jalen Brunson fans, they were going off about like, I thought this was the guy. You know what I mean? And now this season, it's like, well, look at where he is and look at where those two are. But on top of that, I think so like last year, NBA Finals was 5 games, and Game 5 was a blowout.
Correct.
But Game 5,
and it was never in doubt.
Right, but from Game 5 last year to this year, down 25%. The finals itself as a whole down 19% this year. So I imagine that some of the things that you brought up, like the streaming and the free trials and all that stuff was around last year too. You know what I mean? But what we had last year,
that's just because you had a big city. I don't know what the population.
Right, that's what I was about to say.
Is.
What we had last year,
fans are everywhere. So
they're a blue blood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They have the most championships in the league. Dallas is a top 7 city population wise.
Their guy was supposed to be there. He tore an Achilles, and it's been a wrap. So I can understand that if you are a Boston fan and you are a Knicks fan, like that large group of people kind of pulling out because you thought your team was going to be there. They were one of the best teams in the East, defending champs. And then the Knicks fans were just they were on the verge of making the NBA Finals, and you fall out. But if you're a basketball fan, I don't want to hear the small market piece as like your reason why you're not watching. Like, you're a basketball fan, because let's keep it 100%. Cleveland is a small market.
Well, to your point,
and we watched every single one of those early 7 years with LeBron struggling and getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, his 1 year to the finals, and then those 4 years after Miami, we watched all of that. Golden State is not a big basketball market. It just became that after Mark Jackson got these guys lined up properly.
But think about it. To your point, there's some parallels here. Like, we talk with Residente a lot about how March Madness, I don't know these guys. The NBA draft, who are these guys? So you got that in the NBA to a lesser degree. What do I mean by that? Stand by. Here we go. So, like, for example, this season, you got the Detroit Pistons, right? They made the playoffs. They were one of the big stories. They got a guy, Cade Cunningham, right? And they didn't even have 20 national games this year. You know what I mean? Then you got the Houston Rockets, right? The number 2 seed in the West. Now obviously,
fast, exciting team.
Right. Now, obviously, what I'm about to say predates them being the 2 seed. But to your point about, this young team, they got Ime Udoka as the head. They had 11 national games. You had the Orlando Magic, who made the playoffs 2 straight years. So I'm not saying that they're a great team or anything, but they're a team that has been in the postseason. They got 9 national games this year. So when you get to the
national games, are you talking about like TNT?
This is like your ESPN, TNT, and NBA TV, and you know what I mean. So when you break it down like that, when Orlando gets to the playoffs, and plays Boston in the first round, it's truly a lot of people's first time laying eyes on Paolo Banchero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you look at the Pistons, right? I'm sure people have heard the name Cade Cunningham before. You know what I mean? But this is your first time laying eyes on Cade Cunningham.
And the thing about it, Cade Cunningham is a 6'7", 6'8" point guard with size.
Yes.
Like, Magic Johnson was a 6'9" point guard with size. Granted, he had a lot of flair. And then you had Larry Bird, a 6'8" shooter, 6'8", 6'9" shooter. Was like, these two guys were anomalies when they were drafted.
Right.
Then you had the whole, and the NBA took that and was like, oh, let's run with that. I'm like, that's the same thing you have with guys like Cade Cunningham. That's the same thing you have like Houston. Houston has a bunch of just runners on their team.
I mean, Jalen Green was the number 2 draft pick.
Number 2 draft pick.
And Amen Thompson went number 4.
So it's like you have 2 top 5 draft picks, young, exciting. You need to sell more jerseys, because what's happening and it kind of like lended into like a because I wasn't part of like a lot of these conversations about the ring culture, but what I was thinking about this morning, I was just like, I think we are we are we have seen all of the legends of our sport. And what I mean by that is like I think the money's going to be so good, like starting like the last few years. Like we have guys like I
Like
think
Jalen
Shingun
Brown.
is Jalen Brown's getting like 50 something million, Cat's getting 50 million. I think you're going to get guys like Jokic whenever his deal is done, he's going to be like, that's it. So if it's 12 years in the NBA, 13, it's a wrap. Uh, SGA's deal is going to be like 358 million. I don't think you're going to get a lot of guys that are going to play 16, 17, 18 years with one team, mainly because you're not going to be able to pay all these guys. So guys are going to start moving. There's going to be these new guys coming up. But as far as like cracking that top 20, I think that top 20 is pretty set with the few people who have someone from 21 to 30 that they feel should be in it, but it's locked in.
And
Like
see, some of
the
that is the
LeBron
result.
legends, the Steph legends, KD to some degree. I think it's over. It's not a knock on these current players, but that iconic status that we're going to talk about
The incentive isn't there
them
because you already got
with
paid.
the grainy video. Like if you think about the first NBA 2K that Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and like LeBron, all those guys were in, it's crazy compared to now. And I think it's just going to stop. And the NBA is going to be in a situation where they're just going to have to just expand as we transition that. They're going to have to expand all over the world just to bring in like an excess amount of dollars because they're not promoting the guys stateside.
And see, and back to the TV argument for a quick second. So the Lakers had the most national TV games. That makes sense because they're the Lakers and you need to fill West Coast time slots. So that makes
Correct.
sense. But real quick, what do you think that number is? How many national games did they get?
So they have 82 games. If I had to guess, I thought I heard the number and it had a 4 in it. I can't remember if it was 34 or 44.
It's 39.
39. Okay,
So
so
that's the
right in the
most in
middle.
the league. That's the most. Golden State 36, Boston and New York 34, Dallas and Phoenix 30. Philadelphia, for some reason, and I mean, granted, Embiid is a former MVP and everything. Philadelphia
Embiid,
got
Paul George,
27.
Maxey, Philly loves
Yeah,
basketball.
OKC, right? OKC, they were a trendy pick to get to the finals or, to make noise this year. They ended up winning 68 games. They had 25 national games. So it's one of those things where the NBA, I think, needs to change their approach because if you're not going to put these teams on TV, you have to put the players on TV because the NBA has become, or it always has been, player centric. It was
Yeah.
never the Bulls
They
versus
don't
the
wear
Lakers.
hats, they don't wear helmets. They are
Right.
the
So you know what? Put
easiest people
SGA
in sports to market.
put SGA on the View. You know what I'm saying? You already had Jalen Brunson and Halliburton show up to SmackDown. You know what I mean? Have these guys hang out. And Residente brought this up yesterday. Hang out with Casanet. Hang out with your Drewskis and your people like that.
I
Just to
show
get
speed and all these other
yeah,
guys. Yeah.
and also
Just make sure it's regulated. Have like an NBA person like, yo, you can't be having like,
don't be
wild shit going
smoking,
on.
don't be
No
all that stuff.
smoking, no random
Yeah.
strippers and stuff like that. We're still
But
trying
we
to
got to
build an
get these
image.
faces out there because there's only a few NBA players that really have commercials even. You
The
know what I
thing
mean?
about it, like I brought this up before, SGA has a Skims deal because Skims has a deal with the NBA.
Right.
That's Kim Kardashian's brand. Her family has like billions of followers. Like
Like is it
between
just
her,
me?
Kylie, Kendall, Chloe, and Kim, like over 1 billion people follow the
See,
four
check
of
it.
them.
Is it just
But
me?
SGA is not in their show or they're not courtside at his games or
Is,
doing
is, is
Skims
it just me?
commercials.
And I apologize in advance if they have already done this because I wouldn't know. But I'm like, if you're gonna talk about the Kardashians, who better to pair up with the Kardashians than Mellow Ball? You know what I mean? Like have some LeVar Ball interaction with the Kardashians, have LaMelo and Lonzo. Like it writes itself. You know what I mean? But anyway, so like as we look at that, right? if I'm the Detroit Pistons, you know what I mean? And the Detroit Pistons, going back to the 80s, they were one of the franchises of that decade. You know what I mean? And then they won that title with Ben Wallace and those guys back in 2004, Hall of Fame Chauncey Billups. They won their 2004 title. They went back to the finals against the Spurs, and then it's just the Pistons disappeared. You know what I mean? And so like, I don't know, especially in this age. And I think what the NBA is saying is we got league pass. We got this. If you want to watch the Pistons, you go watch the Pistons. The part that they're missing is you got to give me a reason to watch the Pistons.
That's the thing. You gotta something. I think about this. I've seen a lot of plays like rebounds, and I'll see a kick out to Nembhard, and I'll see him look up like, do I throw this rim run pass? But it's the finals. You can't waste a possession. I think in a regular season, you try that. So a game, let's say Atlanta versus Detroit, where the casual fan doesn't feel there's that much star power other than just like Trae Young. Cade Cunningham is a good player. Bickerstaff's great coach. They have a good team. They're building a good core. But like, once again, their personalities aren't out there. So you're just looking like, if you're not a basketball aficionado, you're not going to understand like why he's a good basketball player. So that a sequence where it's a lot of outlet passes and like, possessions, and they could look sloppy, and you don't have a star, you could turn people off of the game, but you still got to do it.
And you can still get your fix. You want to have the Lakers and the Warriors on TV? Fine. Just have them play Orlando and Detroit once or twice. You know what I mean? Like, you could get the best of both worlds. Because now
Lakers Detroit in LA should be your game. You don't like. I don't need Golden State LA for my West Coast game. I'm already, as a Chinese fan, he knows Steph Curry. She knows Steph Curry. They all know LeBron. Get LeBron on the court with whoever's playing important, Scoot Henderson, whatever the case may be, in LA. Make it a big deal. Talk about it all week. Highlight the Portland players. The LA players are going to get so much social media buzz, has nothing to do with the NBA. Just their fan pages. Like I said, the Kardashians are, connected to them through relationships or money and agencies and so forth and so on, and sitting courtside. Their Instagram following is 1.6 billion, just them. So they're going to have their pictures courtside, entice them to come to that game. Because a lot of times, I remember I was watching Entourage. Mm-hmm. They were like, Jeremy Piven's character was trying to like bribe someone, like someone he needed a favor from someone. He was trying to bribe him with Lakers tickets. He was like, who are they playing? He was like, the Wizards. He goes, but like even in like the TV shows, like they didn't want, like the fictional characters didn't want to watch Lakers versus Wizards. Give us a reason, highlight them, promote the Wizards players, because like I said, the Lakers is going to sell itself.
Oh, I bet you Cooper Flag going to be all over TV next year.
Because his name, image, and likeness. That's why I think it shouldn't be capped. I mean, he made like $28 million, but he's been on the radar of basketball fans and casual fans via social media for a couple of years. Like I said, over time, these elites, all these other social media channels, NBA, connect with them. We talk about the slam dunk contest. Connect with the people who are playing basketball in the States. I feel like everybody just kind of forgotten that America is like the epicenter for these sports, and everybody wants to go global. I'm like, no, cater to the people here. Cater to the fan that's going to buy the jersey and buy the hats and come to the games and tailgate and pay, $75 to sit in the arena and watch the game on the Jumbotron. Like, that fan needs to be catered to. I get it. You want the dude in Brazil to buy jerseys too, but I'm like, yo, the dude in Oklahoma wants to buy jerseys. Cater to him.
Well, speaking of which, Mark Spears last night, made the statement that a high-level NBA official told him that the expansion announcement may be coming this summer. And guess what? Summer started today. We got the NBA draft on Wednesday and Thursday. So, like, what better time to roll that announcement out, during the draft or after in the mix of the draft. So, with that being said, I think the worst kept secret is Seattle and Las Vegas. You know what I mean? But you and I
So it
both
gives
know
us 32 teams.
Yes, but especially going off of what you just said before I switch topics, we know they're going international again at some point. So from a certain standpoint, I don't think it's very logistically feasible to have European teams. You know what I mean? But I know there has been talk of a European league to offset. So maybe that becomes, there you go. Maybe that becomes your new farm system, like the way the baseball has the minor leagues. Maybe you have your European buildup and that kind of supplies, because we're starting to see these international players take over the draft. There's going to be about 3 or 4 of them in the first round this year that is not including the international dudes that played in college. So I'm talking about dudes that are in France right now and so on and so forth. So where do you see expansion beyond the Seattle, Las Vegas?
I mean, back to Vancouver, like it would have to be Canada.
I was thinking Montreal.
Yeah, like it would have to be like Canada. It has to be in these time zones.
Well, Mexico.
Like I'm not thinking like Hawaii would.
And you shot me down. You know what I mean? Even though
I don't like Mexico
they got a G League
City.
team.
I don't like Mexico City because I am a true blue-blood American through and through. And I think there's plenty of places here where you can put basketball teams.
Like where?
You could go, or here being like North America.
No, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying, like what do you have in mind?
I think Seattle will be a great place. I mean, like not really a great place, but it's not a great place. It's a place. If you're going to expand, you would have to do something drastic.
Hey,
you would have to take a star from somebody's team. So you would have to you'd have to be like, hey, Boston, we get it, but we need Jaylen Brown to be the first pick
of the Supersonics
of the Seattle Supersonics. Like, hey, OKC is part of your legacy. We need J-Dub or Chet. So like they're gonna have to. They can't just give them a bunch of G League guys, put them out west, and then put them on at 10 o'clock and no one watches. They're gonna have to give up Ivy.
They're gonna have to pull a Cooper Flag deal.
Like that. They're gonna have to like legit, say, hey, you got to. Every team has to put up. You can protect 2 guys.
Yeah.
Everybody else has to be available within reason.
So hey, and
then they go through. So Vegas, I think Vegas would be a good spot.
Was the Luka trade $10 billion for Cooper Flag?
Yeah, it's crazy how the money goes. Like I said, I'm still gobsmacked over the Luka deal.
Well, that was a question that I was going to ask you.
But Montreal, yeah, I think it's places like I just think that the games, getting people to the games and getting organic fans to the game. It's the NBA is like an American league. You can have a South American or a Central American NBA league and have them play games in that region. Same way you can have it in South America.
How do you think the Lakers sale? We're not going to talk about the Lakers, but how do you think the Lakers sale impacts this expansion? Or does it?
I don't think it does, because no one in their right mind would do anything but leave the Lakers in those same colors in that same arena with the same banners and the same legacy and their same legends coming back to the game.
Well, I'm just meaning as far as the new teams coming into the league, though. Like, does that just hike up their valuation?
I don't think so. I think the Lakers $10 billion is probably because you can sell a Laker jersey anywhere in the world. Like the property that all the Lakers buildings are on, in offices and office buildings attached to the team, or in LA, that real estate is crazy. I think that's more associated with all of the accoutrement that comes with being the Lakers. You're not going to sell the Houston Rockets for $10 billion. You might get 5 and some change, but you probably won't sell them for 10 because it's like the real estate doesn't match up. I think that's a lot of the pieces. Like most of these hedge fund guys, whoever manages his money, they're just buying out. It's the same thing. I saw a video. They're talking about Vegas. Most of the casinos are kind of run by like New York City hedge funds who bought the property as just another thing to just create money for this hedge fund. The expansion, like I said, the problem with the expansion is like, it's like, yo, you got kids already. You ain't taking care of them. You want to have more. And that's the problem. So you have to,
baby still wearing hand-me-downs.
Yeah, the city has to be a either a tourist destination or just a dope city that people love off the rip.
And that's why I like Montreal. They also have the Bell Center that is already ready for NBA basketball if necessary. You do have the language barrier because I know that Montreal, is of the French background.
Yeah.
So that could cause some issues initially, but we're in a technological.
Toronto Blue Jays and the Raptors are playing their games. They figured it out.
So
Edmonton Oilers are playing.
I do like Mexico City because, like I said, they already have a G League team. It's a bigger market than New York City. So, whatever, value you get from New York City, you're probably not going to get from Mexico City just because it's not a part of the United States, but it is a bigger market than New York. So there has to be some value there.
Yeah, but are you going to get a bunch of fans? Like, because the ratings are pretty much an American-based system.
Right.
A team in Mexico City, what region of America is the Mexico City Matadors? Like, where's their fan base? It's only like in Mexico.
You got to build that. You know what I mean? Just like when you talk about Las Vegas, right? Like we see it with the Raiders already. Like their home games are not home games. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of people who build Vegas trips into football games. Yeah.
So this Las Vegas team that's sitting in the 40th biggest market in the country, small market, if you will, saying is going to be transplants in non-Vegas citizens for the most part.
Yeah, but that arena, 18,000 people to fill an arena, especially with the way you buy tickets in Vegas. Because when you get to Vegas is when you can make a couple of plans ahead of time. Like, oh, I want to see this show. Like, I just went out to Vegas, saw Coldplay, saw them at the football stadium. Now I've been to the Eagles Stadium twice. I've been in the Raiders Stadium, and I haven't seen the Eagles or the Raiders play football. I've seen Pink, Beyonce, and Coldplay. So I have a sports podcast, but I've seen a lot of great shows at football stadiums. And then after that, it was like, okay, we booked the show. I booked the Cirque du Soleil show, and then went to San Ventriloquist. So when you're in Vegas, you just look up the deals. So if you only have to sell out 18,000 seats and people are there all week long, like we were out on a Monday night in Vegas last week, and it felt like a prime Thursday night. Like it felt like the weekend was ramping up because like people come to Vegas Sunday through Thursday because the hotel's a little cheaper. So you'll be able to sell out with just casual basketball fans, especially if you get the right deal. Like if you can, a couple $100 for a ticket, like I'll check out a game on a Tuesday night since I'm here for this convention.
Yeah, I mean the NHL team's doing well.
But you need a city that has like that kind of touristy influx already. Vegas is like it's a different kind of city where you can just essentially bank on filling whatever arena you're trying to fill if you can get the other prices right. Like if you can get the hotel prices down and you kind of balance that out, you can fill the A stadium, you could fill the arena, you could fill the football stadium. So we talked about, what was it? Was it South Carolina? You had an idea for another team in North Carolina. We were talking about this. So that was baseball.
Yeah, that was baseball. I was
Okay, yeah.
talking about Charlotte. I know Residente brought up Charleston, but I don't know how that works logistically. I don't know much about Charleston, to be honest. But I was thinking maybe
I
you,
just know people love it. The people who live there love it, and the
yeah.
people who visit love it, and the people who moved away always want to move back.
Well, I was thinking, do you get some Kansas City / St. Louis involvement? I know you got Mahomes has his thing with the Royals. Obviously he plays for the Chiefs.
The soccer teams there, that stadium's getting World Cup
Sporting
games.
KC, yeah. You got them, to a much, 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 much smaller degree. You got cities like Louisville who don't sound like destinations, but when you're talking about basketball, they're basketball havens,
Can you put
and
a
they got
basketball team in Cincinnati?
you could. There was one before, and that's the problem is that a lot of these
Because
cities have
it's
had
right there in
teams
that
before.
basketball, that Indiana,
Yeah,
Ohio, Kentucky region. They
right,
love basketball. Like
right.
people don't know much. Like if you travel around the country, like being in the military, you learn about people, and especially like I was playing intramural basketball. This one cop I knew, I think his name was Binion. He's from Ohio, and he was talking about like we were in the gym just on our day off, and he was just shooting the lights out. I'm like, okay, Binion, it's a goofy ass dude, can't fix his collar on his shirt when we go out. Put a basketball in his hand, and he's out there like Hoosier, just knocking it down. And he was like, yeah, he's like, we used to play the black schools, and they would cross us up, and we would fall. But he was like, they couldn't beat this bounce pass, his chest pass, his 3-point shot. He's like, we'd win the game 65-40. They
Well,
get a
I
lot of
thought
ooze, but like that region, like that Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky
right.
region, they really like basketball. And that's what
Cincinnati
I said.
has the
Sometimes you just got to
cachet.
cater to that fan. Stop trying to get the whole world to love you.
Well,
Get your
Cincinnati,
hood, get the people around you to love you. Like bring the Midwest back into sports. It seems like they're trying to relegate the Midwest out of sports and move teams out of the Midwest. Now, like this is a sports town. A lot of your great football players are from this region: Ohio, Pennsylvania, Nebraska. Like it's like that's like the heartbeat of America. It's like cater
Cincinnati
to
has
that
the
fan
cachet
base.
because they have other sports teams, like the Reds and the Bengals. But I've always said that, Columbus could be a prime spot because it's one of the fastest growing cities in the country. It's the capital of Ohio. But Cincinnati is closer to that Kentucky region that you're talking about. Like Cincinnati basically spills into Kentucky.
Yeah,
And
you
then
can fly into Kentucky and drive into Cincinnati. It's like
yeah, and then
it's
you
super
have
close. I've
another
been there. It's a
another
dope city.
yeah, another place that I was thinking about. So I brought up Kansas City and St. Louis, one of the two at least. That sounds good to me. As I was trying to think, and I don't know if we want another team in Florida, but just looking at population and where it is located within the state, I was thinking, why not Jacksonville? They're right on that Alabama border, like well, not
And
on
that's
the
the
border, but
opposite side of
close.
Orlando, right?
Well, it's up north. It's on
Up north.
it's up Georgia. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, because remember the Gators in Georgia play there every year. So
Okay. That's the
so
halfway point.
yeah. So it doesn't infringe on your Miami and Orlando because they're all the way at the bottom of the state. So I think there's enough between the cities that
What number would you want? 2 teams, 4 teams?
as far as expansion.
Your expansion. Like would you add 2 more teams? Because we say me and you've been kicking around the Seattle,
So
Las Vegas idea for years. I'm pretty sure the NBA has as well.
so for me, just because I like everything being equal, I guess I would say 36 because then you have every division has the same amount of teams,
Okay.
with 36. But I don't like 36 because I feel like that's way too much.
Because you would have to pull like
Because you would
so
just water it
if we
down.
call Seattle good, if we call Seattle and
Yeah, and
Vegas
Seattle's
good,
the 12th biggest market in the country.
and then we go Montreal, and you said Jacksonville, Cincinnati, and
St.
then you
Louis
said St.
or
Louis,
Kansas
like
City, whichever
St.
one.
Louis, Kansas City. So I would say Kansas City because of the football and the World Cup stuff. That's gonna
And the
the World
Royals.
Cup. The
Yeah.
World Cup is gonna the World Cup uh, gaming expectation is gonna drive money to Kansas City. So figuring out how to get a stadium built for basketball with that influx of
And I
money
know
coming in.
Mahomes has brought up himself that he wants to help try to bring basketball to Kansas City. You know what I mean?
So
But I'm a
that's
bigger fan
6.
of your idea from last week. You know what I mean? New Orleans moves to Vegas, and somebody else moves to Seattle versus actually expanding.
Yeah, because like I said, the expanding would work because like I said, there's so many teams that are only playing 7 guys, and you could probably pull like a guy like Matherin. If he was on Denver, I don't think he's in the rotation.
Okay,
Like because
that's interesting.
one of the comments last night that Doris Burke said, it's not surprising that the 2 deepest teams in the league are
In the finals.
in the finals. Whereas I think a lot of teams just have guys on the bench that might have real talent. Like I talk about this guy, Cam Thomas. Could you put him in the Vegas Spades jersey and let him just catch fire? That's the only name I can come up with. The Vegas. I mean, you can't do aces. We can do
I know
Vegas
it just
Hearts.
sounds racist, man.
It is. It's definitely full on. Like it's full on. It'd be like the new.
Could you do the Las Vegas Gamblers?
I mean, I know the NBA is good with gambling, but I don't think they would want like dudes wearing it, like wearing dice on their uniforms.
Yeah.
I mean, you call it Vegas Vipers or something. Maybe it's like a snake out there they can name it after. But
Yeah.
I think you could do that. 6 is a lot.
It is, but I think it's
especially
coming
considering they're trying to
anyway.
like shorten the game and shorten the season. I think expansion is, as a concept, makes sense if I felt the NBA was like growing. But I think the NBA is kind of I think they're stretched as far as they can go.
But I think the NBA is growing. It's just international. You know what I mean? But
That's what I mean. Like I don't think
logistics,
Spain would care if we added 6 more United States
because
NBA
you have
teams.
NBA Africa, but you're not having a team in Angola.
Yeah, have have these okay. Europe has so many levels and so many leagues. The NBA probably doesn't need an NBA Europe,
Right?
NBA Africa, NBA South Africa, NBA China. Like if you want to, I want to say infringe upon these other leagues or merge and make deals with these other leagues. Yeah, but I want to sound like this like super American, but like leave it over there and allow like the American development, because what's happening is like we aren't showcasing the young American talent enough to the point where those guys are going to China to play.
But I would argue that's more of a proponent of the AAU system than anything else.
I would get down to the AAU system, and you already have a farm system. It just needs to be, curated a little better. So can associate yourself with, because if you want to get fans in the United States on board with the NBA, do things from a grassroots perspective. Like the foundation of the NBA is your homegrown American stars.
I think that we're getting that because remember we were talking about the draft, and we're going to do our draft preview and all that on Tuesday. But we were talking about the NBA draft from the standpoint of with the NIL now, guys are going to be going back to school, and so some of these underclassmen that are 18, 19 years old.
Adam Silver needs to be at college games. He needs to be at AAU tournaments. They need to sanction NBA.
Go to a G League game.
Go to it needs to be head coaches from the NBA. Case in point, today my son went to the Naval Academy football camp. The head coach of the Naval team
Brian
was
Newberry
leading he opened the camp. It wasn't like he just came out, popped up, and then went back in the office. He was leading the camp. Every coach came up and introduced himself. There was coaches from other schools as well. And when they broke off in different groups, he was talking to different recruits. They had some guys that they brought in. But the whole coaching staff all played a vital role. So the organization was there, the structure was there. So if you are an NBA team and you have G League teams and you have NBA Europe and you have AAU program, that seems to be a bit discombobulated. Send your people down there, send your scouts, send your even like the ESPN people, like get it on TV to where it's like, hey, we need a better product. Like when they started putting the high school football on ESPN, and we heard about guys like Tate Martell, and that's we started seeing guys like Travis Hunter recently, and then back in the day, Terrell Pryor. Like when they started putting like an emphasis, like, man, you got high school games. Granted, they did it with LeBron, but he was like a phenom. But it was like, okay, cool. Let's put more Oak Hill versus Mount Verde on TV and look at it as worked out. Like, just keep doing that. They don't need all these other grand ideas. It's like you have enough people playing basketball year round in this country every single day, playing their hearts out. It's like, this is where your talent pool is.
Mm-hmm. Word. For sure. So like, and I also think that
Sound like a real patriot over here about
America first.
Grab my flag.
And America first, damn it. But also, like you said, it goes back to connections and networking to some degree. Where these college teams have relationships with NBA scouts because I'm sure scouts stay at Kentucky, they stay at Duke, they stay at Kansas. So yes, there is a bit of a grassroots element there. The problem is that college basketball and the NBA just seem to be at odds most of the time. Like when it comes to stuff like the one and done and all that kind of stuff. I think that expansion can be good because of the two cities that are going to be added, if that is what ends up happening. But from there, it's okay. What do you do now? Because like I said, the divisions are going to be uneven. You're not contracting. So you got to fill it in some way, somehow. And you still got to move a team over to the East as well. Since you're bringing it, if those are the two teams, because you're bringing in the two Western teams. So now you got to figure out, am I moving Minnesota? Am I moving Memphis? Am I moving New Orleans?
Moving Memphis and Minnesota or New Orleans and Memphis. No, if I get Seattle and Vegas.
Yeah, you only need to move one.
No, Seattle and Vegas will be in the West.
That would be 16 teams, and then you move one to the East to have 16 teams in the East.
I'm adding 2 teams to the West. I'm not talking about moving New Orleans to Vegas. I'm talking about 2 new teams.
Yes. Right now, there are 15 teams in each conference. So if you bring 2 in, that brings it to 17. It'll be 17 over here, 15 over here. So you move the one over. Yeah. So you move. So you just got to decide, is it going to be Memphis? Is it going to be Minnesota?
Do you like the Ant Edwards and Golden State OKC matchups every year, or do you want Ja Morant? If Memphis is going to rebuild, I'd move them to the East just to have them on at 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
If I'm looking at it from a futuristic, if I'm looking at it from a short-term standpoint, I want Minnesota in the East. And I guess they're already Eastern time zone anyway, they're.
Let me see where they are. Mountain.
But anyway, the point being, if I can get Anthony Edwards,
like where the hell Minnesota is on the map.
Well, it's right next to North Dakota and Wisconsin and Michigan, on top of Illinois and Iowa. But Nebraska's in that area too. But I would think that I want Anthony Edwards in the East. Just from the standpoint of playing him against more Eastern markets. So you were talking about
Memphis is more east than Minnesota.
It's pretty west, relatively speaking.
But it's more east. It's more east in Minnesota.
Yeah,
Minneapolis.
But I think I would like to.
You want Ant Edwards. See, that's the thing. Ant Edwards is already box office, so you can have him anywhere.
No, that's true. But I could also.
So I would leave him west just to keep that 10 o'clock game against Portland on TV.
No, you're correct. You're correct. But my thought is, I could have him against the Knicks 4 times a season instead of 2. You know what I mean? I could have him. You talked about, Chicago's the 3rd biggest city in the country. You know, I could put Anthony Edwards against Chicago a couple times a year, and that gets
Maybe
the
they
Bulls.
change that. Maybe you don't need expansion. Maybe you need to like loosen up how many conference games you play. Like if you're trying to sell it, it's like, you know what? Because like I said, the Lakers in the rising NBA, Lakers, Celtics, Bird, Magic, they were playing an astronomical amount of games against each other for two teams that are like 3,500 miles apart. It's just like, we gotta get this on TV. But yeah, like I said, Memphis is just west of Chicago, but it's still
Right.
more east of Minneapolis. I like Memphis because I think Memphis might have to rebuild. So I would rather have them on the east where I can keep them on TV where like we could start their games at 7:30 and people can still watch them because they still have a buzz. I mean, if they trade with other players, it might be different, but maybe they get some assets back, but they still have good enough buzz. That's having them play against the Knicks or having them play against, granted, Memphis versus Charlotte might not be a big draw, but I think Ant's going to be a great draw no matter what. And I'd rather him feed my West Coast. Minneapolis versus Phoenix next year when Phoenix depletes their team. It's still going to be box office because Ant's going to go out there and try to get 50.
Season I've been talking about, trade Trae Young for Ja Morant. You got a rivalry. Like just have them play each other. You know what I mean? Like just have them. They can stay where they at. Just have them play each other.
Yeah.
And now you got Atlanta against Memphis as a big deal. You know what I mean?
Or in the South,
and that's the thing.
Two flashy guys, small guards, really out there just doing things
NBA
differently.
needs to capitalize on. Whenever Trae Young plays the Knicks, it needs to be on TV.
Has to be on TV.
Saying? OKC, Minnesota. You got to treat that like the Lakers and the Warriors when they play each other. Because I swear, every Laker-Warrior game
is on TV, and then they show the replay, and then they talk about it for 2 days before and 2 days after. Yeah,
right. So that's another part of not to get back into the promotion conversation, but that's another part of how you can grow the game too, because that's what the NFL thrives off of. Now, free agency has made it a little bit differently, but it's still Commanders, Cowboys. It's still Steelers and Ravens. It's still Broncos and Chiefs.
Saints, Falcons, no matter what. Records can be.
Even if Mr. Logical doesn't think that they really a rival. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
For some reason, it always seems to matter in the regular season.
Right. So
every year.
So that's where the NBA can help themselves as well. And with expansion, because you got, I guess you'll put Vegas in the division, with the Lakers in the Pacific and everything, and then you'll put Seattle up there with Portland and Denver up in the I forgot what the division is called.
Is it Northwest?
The Northwest or something like that. Yeah. You could have that going on. You know what I mean? So like you have the bones and structure of what you need to do. It just has to be implemented and enforced.
Yeah, but I think the promotion should be the primary move with relocation of a couple of teams out of markets that just aren't fully taking advantage of them. And then you do your expansion.
Right. But so we'll see. Like I said, hopefully during the draft, they make the announcement official. And then, we just go from there. But speaking of the draft, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back on Tuesday, the day before the draft. I already been in the lab getting my notes together. I still love Ace Bailey, even though he hasn't worked out for anybody. What the hell is that? But we'll get into that on Tuesday. But y'all have a good weekend. Game 7 on Sunday. Enjoy it. We love you. Do not bring feelings to a fat fight.
Don't do it.
He is the world renowned, the world famous, the one and only Mr. Logic. And I am your unorthodox statistician 25. We got liquid deaths in our hand. So all we're asking you to do is like, review, subscribe, rate, share. It's free. Do the free things. Hop on the good foot and do the good thing.
Good thing.
You know what I'm saying? We be back. We love you. Peace.